Today we're going to continue our series on the 5 patterns that ignite a minor issue into a full-blown conflict in relationships. So let me paint a scene for you. Your work has been full out recently, and it's been tough. You heard today that layoffs are coming down the pike, and you're worried about your future at the company. But you keep telling yourself that if you keep your head on straight and stay with it, you're gonna be okay. And the thing you know you should do, which is give your partner a heads up about this, just feels impossible. You know she's gonna worry a lot. You're afraid that she's gonna totally lose it. She's gonna be so upset, and deeper down, you're afraid she's gonna leave. You're afraid she's going to decide that it's just too much for her to handle. So when you get home, you tell her everything's fine. Not just that, you also do anything you can to distract from the anxiety you feel inside. And try to make sure that you do everything right so that she doesn't suspect a thing. This is the nature of avoiding, which is a really tricky pattern and can create some huge issues if it goes on long enough. Because eventually, the truth comes out. And when it does, you're gonna wanna know how to turn the ship around. All of this is what we're talking about today. Stay with me. This is Reclaiming the Gentleman. I'm Dave Lashansky. I have to start this episode by saying that I have exhibited every single one of the 5 patterns in this series. Suppressing, defending, fawning, fixing, you'll hear those soon. But avoiding, the one we're talking about today, has been the worst. And I'm talking about it today so that you know what to do if you recognize this pattern in your actions too. Because avoiding is costly in a very specific way. Avoiding usually leaks into other areas of life. Your mental, emotional, financial, spiritual health, and all the good things that your relationship is built on. And the whole point of this series is to give you access so that you can heal faster, get back to love faster, and make better decisions faster, right? In the end, all of this is really practical in that way. The whole point of the work that I do is to help you lead yourself so that you can steward your own ship and your own energy toward what you most care about, toward what's going to give you the life that you most want. I do think it is that simple. And the whole point of this series is to help you see some things that most people don't, not until they start working on themselves. Not until they start reconciling what within them is creating problems. So, let's start off this episode on avoiding by talking about how it's different from what we talked about last week, suppressing. Because these two can look alike from the outside. If you're suppressing, right? If you remember the episode, or if you haven't, go back and listen to it. If you're suppressing, it feels like pushing down, like actively squeezing an emotion inside, and it takes up a ton of your presence and attention to do this. It often causes you to go quiet, to feel really numb. Sometimes you become unable to speak when things are really intense, right? And you might try and play it off like you're fine, but if you're really suppressing, it's probably not all that convincing for either you or your partner. But when you're avoiding, you've usually got a lot more bandwidth to play it off. You might genuinely convince your partner, or even, and worse, yourself, that you're good. Right? Avoiding comes from the head. It is your brain acting fast, giving you all the things that you can do, automatically and before conscious thought to stay away from whatever feels too big to sit with, whatever feels too intense to share with your partner. Right? In that opening example, the man who's afraid he's about to get laid off is probably really used to hiding the things he's most afraid to bring up. He's probably going to start doing more around the house, buying more gifts, offering more of his energy to avoid that feeling he's so afraid of. That this thing he's hiding means that he's not good enough, that he's unlovable, untrustworthy, bad, gross. Without thinking about it, he knows how to cover all of these fears with action, which means that the pattern goes on longer than most of the other ones we're talking about in this series. Right? The avoiding pattern plays under the surface, gives the problem more time to get worse. And that's the annoying thing about this pattern, right? These problems don't go away on their own. They need our full attention, not just a side glance to get better. You'll see this in a guy with a drinking problem, right? He knows the solution is just to stop drinking. But he uses that knowledge, right? Like, I know how to fix this, to never actually bother fixing it, to never actually bother stopping. He's convinced himself that he's safe, when all he's doing is digging the hole deeper, kicking the can further down the road, and avoiding what it is that drinking helps him avoid. The guy who watches porn to feel better, to get that monkey off his back, right, needs to know that it might not be as easy as he thought it is to just stop. Even though he's convinced himself he can. He sees the exit. I could just stop. The guy from our opening who's about to get laid off needs to actually face what's happening at work. He needs to get clear on his game plan, have options, collaborate with his wife on what to do, lead the way out, and understand what avoiding it is doing to him. And this is really the only way he can give his best at his job instead of leaking his energy into avoiding the problem. Because the thing that creates the big struggle and the conflict in your relationship especially is when we can't run from the problem anymore, right? When he finally gets laid off or just cracks under the pressure of not knowing it's going to happen, it's going to cost him a lot. It's going to cost him the feeling and dealing with total overwhelm. Maybe he'll have a panic attack. Maybe he'll literally just get sick. And plenty of men lose their relationships this way. Because we convince ourselves we can handle it, and when we can't, it turns out she can't either. Because it's gone on for so long. Or if she can handle it, you end up needing to recover a ton of lost trust, because the pattern of avoiding is, in its essence, a form of betrayal. It is betraying your partner, but first and foremost, it is a betrayal of yourself. That is one of the most painful costs of this, because losing trust in yourself, recognizing that you this whole time have been hurting yourself without really knowing it, without really acknowledging it for so long. Recognizing that this glaring thing was right in front of your face and you were so quick to let your mind take over that you didn't even see it. You were so afraid of having to confront the thing that you spent your time panicking under the surface, struggling, and never really showing up at your best. And her creeping sense that something was wrong eventually made the blow up that you were most afraid would happen. And all of this can change when we strive to become expert knowers of ourselves. When we put our focus and attention on self-awareness. And it can start really simply. It can start with every single day taking stock of your fears and anxieties and what's happening inside of you. Because nothing will affect your intimacy more directly and intensely than the unseen war happening inside. Turn over rocks. Try on questions like, in what ways am I honoring my commitment of honesty to my partner? And in what ways am I not? Notice the tension in your body. And this might sound simple, but most men are so used to the sensation of tension that we go numb in the places where it lives the strongest, right? We get so used to being tense in our jaws and our shoulders and our pelvic floors that we don't even notice they're tense anymore. And this is where a body scanning practice can be really helpful. There's great ones all over YouTube, working with a coach who does this kind of thing. Because the key here is that tension is energy. And releasing tension with intention more often than you think you need to will often reveal what you haven't been able to see. And if you're walking around in a fog, I guarantee that this is part of it. That there's some tension under the surface that is going unnoticed, unacknowledged, unaddressed, and unintegrated. And that's the work. That's what we're here to do. And when you want to take this a step further, if you realize, okay, I've done the practice, but I feel like there's more and I'm not getting to it, the real practice happens in the moment. When you're with her and you recognize something goes off inside of you, that the avoiding is happening. And you hear that voice saying, tell her, tell her, tell her, and you ignore it. I'm not saying when you hear that little voice to instantly just blurt out whatever it is you're avoiding. I'm saying when you hear that little voice and you notice that you are avoiding it, that you're ignoring it, because that noticing is everything. Do this. Ask yourself this question. Am I moving toward her or away from what I'm feeling? Am I moving toward her or away from what I'm feeling? That's it. Because avoiding usually disguises itself as effort. You are taking effort that you know will be rewarded and seen in a good light, right? Planning the date, picking up the chore, being the good partner to hide something. Because if the motion is away from what you're feeling, it's not about connection. It's usually about hiding, avoiding what's happening inside of you. When you catch yourself moving away, ignoring that voice inside, here's what you can say. And it can be really simple, but you just speak it. You say, hey, there is something that has been on my mind and I have been afraid to share it with you. If you're open to it, I would like to try though. And ideally, you've processed this thing a bit outside the relationship first, right? In a men's group with a coach or a friend. So she's not getting the totally raw version. She can hold a lot, but she usually can't rescue you from the emotions that you've been refusing to feel. So have some level of integratedness that you bring this to her with, if you can. And I get that sometimes it's not possible, but try. And yes, you can do it on your own if you literally have nowhere else to pour this out. But I do recommend, especially if you've been avoiding something for a long time, that you do a little bit of work to understand the situation first yourself. So that when you share it with her, you're not giving her the whole thing to hold on her own. That's what it usually feels like when we don't do that. And having dealt with this pattern myself, I can tell you how hard it is to rip off the Band-Aid. But when you do, when you face the storm instead of running from it, something shifts. Possibilities start to open that you couldn't see before when you were running away. And your life will get better when you stop and plant your feet. Face the thing. That's the work. It's not about doing more. It's not about getting through it. It's not about being a better partner on the surface. It's about stopping and looking at what you've been avoiding and being open and honest about it and owning it and being accountable for the impact. Thank you for listening to this episode. This is the second episode in the series of 5 disconnection patterns we tend to exhibit without knowing it in our conflicts. If you're looking for support to learn more about your own patterns, especially the one we talked about today, avoiding, the first and best way to learn more is to take my free Reconnection Code assessment at your-reconnection-code.lovable.app. It's a very simple 3-minute quiz. It is really powerful and it works. It will help you see some of the hidden tendencies that are really hard to discover on your own, that might be getting in the way. It'll also give you the strategies, like what I talked about in today's episode, for how to get out of it too. So again, that link is in the show notes. Check it out. I also still have some open slots for 1-to-1 and 1-to-2, which is couples coaching slots this summer. This is for the people who really want the individualized support and working with their own problem. Maybe you've tried therapy in the past and it hasn't worked for you. Maybe you're just recognizing you can't keep doing things the same way as before. That's what I'm here for. You can go to the link in my show notes to get in touch, or you can email me at dave@davelashansky.com. Until next time, I am wishing you a beautiful day or night, wherever this finds you. I'll be back in a week.